Hey, hope everyone's doing well on this very ugly, disgusting, ridiculous day full of dreary rain. It is miserable outside, but that is okay because we finna be happy. Period.
Speed camera reported ahead.
Period. Just checking in. I'm on my way to one thing we don't talk about a lot is probably obvious, but we work with or meet with and support a lot of our peers in development. So I have a lunch meeting with some friends who are also doing some really cool things in Baltimore. And so y'all know I like company when I'm driving sometimes. So I figured I'd hop up on live because I've been not hiding, but not on here lately. So what y'all been up to? What are you working on? What are you doing? How is life? Hopefully you guys are preparing or have your calendar marked for our next bus tour. I'm excited. We're gonna do some cool things. There's some development projects that we're gonna stop at for this tour on July 29th. So our next bus tour is July 29th in Baltimore. I originally had announced July 22nd, but I realized that that's why I don't schedule stuff by myself. I double book myself. I won't even be here. So the next bus tour is July 29th in Baltimore. So make sure you mark your calendar so you can meet us there. Because it's always a vibe. Every single time. All of them. We were supposed to meet for this meeting at the job site, but I was like, can we not? Because I have to like shoot some content stuff later on, and I'm not fitting to have my hair looking crazy. Okay, so we're gonna meet inside for lunch instead. Goldie socks. I'm from New York and want to invest in house hack in Maryland. You should. I think one of the things that is really important for folks to like remember and understand is what it felt like to miss some of the waves of development in their own areas. And so there's a lot of people from New York who are moving into Baltimore. House hacking, I typically say if you are young, flexible, or in a space where you can really defer a lot of the, or at least some of the comfort or, like the stunt that comes with buying a house, and you can stunt on your financial literacy and your strategic intentions behind house hacking. It's super smart to do. If you like to travel a lot, if you travel for work a lot, all those types of things, it's very smart to focus on doing things like house hacking, so that you're minimizing what is likely your largest expense, which is your housing expense, and buying a multi and living in one unit and renting out the other. In Maryland or Baltimore specifically, the reason why a lot of people really like to do that is because property values are relatively low, rental rates are high. But here's the piece that folks miss or don't have in this conversation around Baltimore. We do within Next Gen, my group coaching program, the Next Gen Accelerator, but I'm going to say it here as well just so folks don't miss it. The challenge is in Baltimore, there's two things that you should know about multifamilies in Baltimore. One, this is primarily a single family row home type of city. You're gonna find everything, but multis are not as plentiful as they are in like the northeast, right? Like in Connecticut, Massachusetts, like up there where there's lots of multis. In Baltimore, it's a lot of single family homes. And then everyone right now, house hacking is the cool thing to do. So everyone's looking for multifamily properties so that they can appreciate and cash flow. And on top of that too, zoning and rezoning in Baltimore is not simple, It's not simple. It's not easy. It's not, I'm just going to buy a house and chop it up. That's not always as easy as it sounds, specifically from a zoning perspective. And there are multifamilies in Baltimore that look like they're multis, but not zoned as such. So just keep that in mind. You have to know what you're looking at. You have to know what questions to ask and who to ask them to make sure you're not buying someone else's headache, because Baltimore has a history of investors, slumlords, whoever, whatever it is that you want to call it, that were just doing anything in the past. And the housing department now, and, you know, Housing Commissioner Alice Kennedy, Mayor Brandon Scott, like, they're not playing the BS that has happened in the past. And so, you know, housing's being held accountable. So just make sure when you're buying property, honestly, multifamily or single family or anything in between, that you're paying attention to the codes, the rules, the zoning, the use and occupancy, like all of these pieces, so that you're not getting, you know, shammy Cocoa Puffed, right? So if you're buying a house that it looks like fresh paint, fresh drywall, fresh framing, everything is brand new, and there ain't been NAN permit pulled, that's a problem. Like, you have to know and understand what to look for in a city that has a history of, you know, predatory practices when it comes to housing, so that you're not getting jammed up. That was a long answer to say, yeah, you should house hack in Baltimore, but, you know, hey, what can we do? Is Baltimore a good location? Absolutely. Baltimore's a great location for a lot of reasons, but SparkNotes is, everyone is looking to Baltimore because Baltimore is the most underdeveloped city with the most opportunity. And so why do I say that, right? Like, what's the facts? It's cute that you say that as you're driving through Baltimore right now, right? But what are the facts? The facts are Baltimore is a waterfront city. The facts are that we have the highest concentrations of colleges and universities in all of the Northeast. The fact is that Baltimore, in this metropolitan area, being, you know, you can easily get to DC, Philadelphia, and New York in a day. You have hundreds and millions, literally billions of dollars being spent in development in Baltimore, not only for new development where it is commercial and residential redevelopment, but also, you know, $200 million at Penn Station, another, you know, couple $100 million for the Red Line that was just announced a couple days ago, you know, another couple $100 million to eradicate vacants. You have, you know, these large developers and builders who are focused on investing in Baltimore. You have the most prestigious hospitals and universities here. You have Morgan and Coppin State University building up even their own capacity to be able to build and develop and grow here in Baltimore. Morgan is about to be, I think, one of the only HBCUs with a nursing program coming up here soon. We have all of these different things. It's a port city. We have all of these different attributes to Baltimore that create this, honestly, like the perfect storm when it comes to growth and opportunity. The challenge is and has always been political, to be honest. Political, which then becomes economic, which then becomes social, right? The problem is trickle down, right? The problem is the history of redlining. The problem is access to jobs, which is something that the Red Line helps to solve. If you're not familiar, the Red Line is basically transportation, like a train, essentially, like a metro that will connect East and West Baltimore, which sounds very simple unless you've driven across Baltimore. It takes forever unless you've taken public transportation, the bus, to try to get from, you know, Woodlawn to Parkville or something. It's ridiculous. And so what the Red Line does is it gives folks access to jobs which then gives them access to economic opportunity, which then gives them the opportunity to own, to build, to have and build wealth, which means that people are able to transition from trying to survive all this time into an opportunity to thrive, which in turn impacts crime, impacts a lot of the conversation that folks like to highlight on, you know, the news or wherever else, rather than all the positive stuff that happens here every single day. But yeah, so all of those different things are the foundation for what has happened in a lot of other places. When we talk about gentrification, we talk about, you know, displacement, people getting pushed out, the opportunity to build wealth, right? You know, you would have invested in Dumbo before it was Dumbo. That kind of conversation is the conversations that I'm constantly trying to make sure y'all know are being had here every single day. Because if you don't know what's happening and the conversations that are happening around boardroom tables and, you know, in these spaces, then you're going to miss the fact that a lot of what's happening now has been planned for years, and the things that are coming are being planned right now. Like, it's just, people are going to say something happened overnight in Baltimore and I'm going to lose my mind, because I'm going to be like, can you please scroll back 7 years on my Instagram to when I told you that this shit was about to pop up? So that's what I think about Baltimore. For those, someone asked how to find out more about our Charm City bus tour on July 29th. It should be in the link in our bio. The link in our bio should have the link to the bus tour, and then also if you go to, there should be like at least a link that says events. If you click through there as well, you should also find a link to the bus tour. And then if you're on our email list, you should have gotten an email. If not, you'll be getting them in the next couple of days. If you're not on our email list, also go to the link in our bio, scroll to the bottom and submit your email, because that's where we send stuff out. In addition to, like, we'll post here and stuff like that, but the email list will get the information directly first, and then I'll start posting on social. Folks that have joined the waiting list for the bus tour, they already started to they got the dates already. So just make sure you're tapped in on our email list, and we know what you're interested in doing. We're not big on spamming people, right? I'm very much the girls who get it, the guys who get it. So you know, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. You get me? Ground rent and property valuation codes are other things to look out for. Due diligence is a must. Yeah, for sure. So Maryland and Baltimore in particular is very unique. So we have things like ground rent, definitely the property violations, stuff like that, because housing department's on people's behind. So make sure that if you're buying property, that your agent, if they're not Baltimore agents, because I know folks like to use their agent that, you know, their cousin's mother, sister's brother that lives in PG County to help them buy a house in Baltimore, chances are that realtor's not going to know Baltimore. They're going to steer you away from neighborhoods that are amazing because they think that they're bad. And they're also not going to understand things like ground rent. They're going to try to get you to use a title company that doesn't know Baltimore, and you're going to have a hell of a time trying to close. Okay? This is why clearly I can talk about real estate like in general, right? And how to invest in general and how to do this stuff in general. But Baltimore is a unique beauty that requires a level of expertise, to be honest. And so if you don't know Baltimore, you better have people on your team who do, or you better connect with people who do, because there are a lot of nuances. So ground rent is basically this old antiquated system where technically if there is a ground rent, you are leasing the ground underneath your property, and so you have to pay them, you know, usually annually or semi-annually, a few $100s a year to use their land, unless you redeem it. If you redeem it, it's a couple $1,000s. If you don't, then your property's not fee simple, and your lender may or may not allow that. So so you need to understand what that means. And then also redemption sometimes it's simple and sometimes it's not. So you also need to understand that process, or have someone on your team who does. Baltimore City title companies know all of the above, even if you don't. So always make sure, if you don't know what you're doing, you're surrounding yourself with people who do. Oh Lord, 83 is the raceway. You hear me? People try to take me out. Hold on one second. Sorry.
Speed camera reported ahead.
I have 3 children. Where should we look? There's still a lot of places to look. Like, I think what people forget to understand about Baltimore is you can find $30,000 houses within a mile and a half of $2 million houses. So it just depends on what you're looking for and your budget, because $2 million houses around $20,000 houses. Cheap shouldn't always be the goal. Should you move to East or West Baltimore? It depends. There's a lot of development coming to West Baltimore. There's a lot of development that's happened in East Baltimore. North, East, and Northwest is different as well than Southeast and Southwest. So you just gotta know where you're looking. So make sure you're building a team here, or you're connecting with people who do, or join Next Gen. You will learn all above. Is it similar to a community land trust? No, a community land trust is a nonprofit that a community land trust, and I also know why you asked that, so that's a really good question. I'm actually impressed. So a community land trust is a y'all gonna get me lost. Hold on, let me make sure I remember which my. Okay, so a community land trust is a nonprofit focused on affordable housing. So, and not just affordable housing, they're focused on permanently affordable housing. So what a community land trust does is they will develop property, and they will usually have someone move into that property, at, let's call it, 30 to 50% of the area median income, which is a metric provided by the state of Maryland for different regions, or any state across the country. They'll have an area median income for regions, and they will set affordability targets as far as like how much someone should be paying for rent or a mortgage based on the average income level of that area. So a community land trust will develop property and have people move in that fall within a specific area of that area median income. And then they will create a deed restriction that will essentially lock in the affordability for that property for the next 99 years. So the reason why I thought it was a good question or good connection, Mrs. Protocol, is because what land trusts will do is they'll file that deed restriction almost similarly to a ground rent, but it's not a ground rent. And so one of the challenges that land trusts have been having, at least locally, is how to articulate and file that deed restriction. But long story short, a ground rent is a ground rent. Anyone can own them. But a community land trust is a nonprofit that has a deed restriction on properties that they develop so that the property is permanently affordable and always falls under that area median income requirement. 1 second again. All right, I'm almost where I'm trying to go, so hold on. What advice would you give for a first-time investor looking for a long-term monthly revenue? I would, one, get really clear about your goals, and then decide if you want really long-term revenue. I'm gonna assume that you just want that money to sit, right? So, do you want to do, how much renovations do you want to do? How much are you willing to kind of sacrifice and be uncomfortable? Hold on, sorry, I'm parking. so I'm rambling a little bit so I don't crash. Yeah, I would get really, really clear about your goals. I would be very, very clear about how much you're willing to spend. I'd make sure that you have reserves. If you're brand new, getting a mentor or a coach, or surrounding yourself with people who know what they're doing and have the expertise that you don't, is a really good idea. So a lot of times you want to survive. If you don't have the expertise, you want to find it. But make sure that you know how to run numbers, you understand areas, and that you have the I always say take care of home first. So make sure, like, financially, from your personal financial perspective, you're ready to make that type of investment. What about land bank pertaining to vacants? I haven't talked about the whole land bank thing that's happening here in Baltimore because there is so much going on. But land banking essentially is the it's an organization that will basically be able to get access to funds so that they can acquire properties and then get those properties in the hands of developers who can get them done. And so a land bank in Baltimore would be an organization that is getting site control of properties and then getting those properties in the hands of developers to actually complete them. So that is a big conversation happening right now in Baltimore, as well as a few others for similar types of projects and programs. It's another example of why folks really need to be paying attention to what's happening in Baltimore. Can you house hack in Baltimore though? Absolutely. You buy a multifamily, you live in one unit, rent out the others. Just make sure you know your numbers. I think people underestimate how much it costs for multifamily properties because it can be so sought after and the inventory is low. So standard economics, right? Supply and demand. Supply is low, demand is high, which means that the cost of those types of properties have increased over the years. So don't expect that you're going to buy a 4-unit for $50,000. It's not happening. Especially, unless it needs significant renovation. But I said what I said, it's not happening. If you're an investor, how can you know Baltimore if you're not from there? You join the Next Gen Accelerator. Period. I mean, to be honest. Or you make sure your team really knows what they're doing. And by know what they're doing, I mean actually has done it before. And has done it successfully before, because a lot of people come here and fail. And that's not me just trying to like sell you something. That's not me, whatever. It's me saying that Next Gen has become the vehicle in which people find success in Baltimore. And usually people spin the block if they don't join Next Gen in the first place. I'm going to be honest. Because the only other way most people learn is through trial and error. And most people can't afford the error in real estate in general. Been there, done that. So I say that from experience. Do you provide any general support? Yeah, that's our Next Gen Accelerated Coaching Program. Do you teach business funding in Next Gen? Yeah, we have, we do have some coaching support in regards to business funding and credit support. There's probably, 20 hours of coaching on business funding. Yeah, even if you're not from Baltimore, if you're not doing it. So people in Next Gen, some of them have used the information to buy outside of Baltimore for sure. I focus on Baltimore. So a lot of the information is Baltimore specific when we're talking about neighborhoods, or we're talking about process, or we're talking about websites to look at, or all those types of things. But yes, absolutely, people have bought outside of Baltimore for sure. The goal is that people are buying in Baltimore to help us eradicate vacants. But yeah, absolutely. And then folks are from all over the country. So I have folks buying property in Baltimore while they're in California because they're leveraging Next Gen. All right, y'all. So I'm late for my 11:30. I hope you guys have a really great day. Thanks for chatting with me. Hope to see you July 29th in Baltimore for our Charm City bus tour. It's also really great for those of you who said that you're brand new to Baltimore, new to investing, want to do X, Y, and Z. The bus tour is actually a really great way to touch it, feel it, see it for the day, right? Like drive around Baltimore, learn about the properties, learn about the neighborhoods, see some development stuff that's happening, meet other people who are thinking like you, and spend the day with me. And we have a good time. So I hope you guys have a really good day. Talk soon. Bye.